So CMS, who Jeff probably loathes, who's responsible for Medicare benefits, Medicare payments, it's the whole umbrella from the federal government for Medicare payments. There's a bunch of stuff coming out. There's multiple lawsuits in place right now against Medicare because of AI denying benefit. So maybe we'll get a little deep dive with Mike Buckner and Pearl when we talk about this. But the interesting piece of it is that they are citing specific cases within several different insurance companies that are sort of housed within the CMS system. One is United Healthcare, where there is belief and good intel that benefits for and right now we're only really seeing it in medical, but we know where these things ultimately go. And if you're seeing it on the government side, I mean, let's be really honest, they're not usually the first to uptake technology and innovation. It's usually on the latter end of things. So if it's happening on the federal government side, you have to assume it's likely happening in the private sector as well, where they have significant evidence to believe that post-acute care for patients was denied based on an AI algorithm as opposed to individual case assessment. So the patients are being denied additional support, life support, additional long-term care, whatever it happens to be, based on some AI algorithm. And I thought, wow, this brings up some really interesting topics about how AI gets involved in certain assessments. And when will it start denying care for folks? Like, for instance, let's take a patient that has a really high caries rate, and the insurance company is seeing that you're submitting multiple restorative things. Is it possible that the AI would kick in at some point and say it would only support extraction over restorative care? I mean, could you envision a time where that may happen? And I think that has been the interesting evolution of how insurers are using AI. And I will say that CMS is definitely coming out on the defense to say, in fact, they will not allow AI to be a predictor or determine benefit for patients. So I think then the onus is on them to prove that that isn't happening, because it is, in fact, in place in several of the insurance companies that work with CMS. So anyway, I thought it was kind of interesting. I don't know. Yeah, go for it.
I love this.
Yeah?
Can I tell you how much I love this?
Tell me.
Because I think that one of the biggest sellers of AI is that insurance companies are using it. Okay. And so, I mean, I love AI in my practice. It's been a
Yeah.
great benefit. And as a matter of fact, I said this to myself just this afternoon. I'm relying on AI so much. Not that it makes me a better educator, not a better diagnostician,
Mhm.
but to me, it's something that I use to help educate the patients. Like, there are more cases that I don't treat because I'm like, okay, this is just incipient. Let's give you some
Right.
Prevident. Let's try and reverse these
For
lesions.
sure.
Let's work on them for 6 months, 12 months, and let's see how the lesion responds. But one of the biggest sellers for AI is that insurance is using this, which is true. Okay, the insurance companies are utilizing AI, and I believe, I'm sorry to my friends at Pearl, but I think Overjet is the one that the AI companies were starting to, I mean, that the insurance companies were starting to use first. And do not quote me on that, because that's not necessarily an assumption. It's something that I heard, so I'm going to call it hearsay versus an assumption. But I think the natural, inclination of the dentist is to say they're using AI to help pay claims. Do we really think that insurance companies want to find something to help them pay claims? Hell no. So I've always had this thought in my mind: what in the hell is an insurance company doing with AI? And honestly, I have no clue.
Can I tell you one thing that they are absolutely using it for?
No, let me finish this
Damn it.
first, please. You're cutting me off. Damn it. Yeah, go ahead and finish, JB. Ladies first.
They're using it to find, and I never thought about this before because I don't do it. But their initial use case was to find doctors who are submitting the same radiographs for the same thing. So if I submit for a DO on number 5, I submit the same radiograph every time I do a DO on number 5. That was initial use case.
Good Lord, I'm an idiot because I would have never thought of that.
I know.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. No, thank you for sharing that because I've always had this like insurance companies aren't trying to pay more money, but it's wonderful to be able to send the AI image in along with the raw radiograph, if you will, and be able to show. And yes, we have used it to send AI images in, but it helps me find so much. It helps me, it helps me really educate the patient so much. But I've always wondered why insurances are gravitating towards this. I love this topic. We could talk on it all night. People don't want to hear us talk all night, but
But ideally, it will also dental consultants, are in trouble for their jobs if the automation of reading a radiograph and determining benefit can go through a first pass through AI, as opposed to having a qualified dental licensed practitioner reviewing the information. Then, from an insurance company's perspective, we're all business owners.
So
we would do the
here's my
exact
take. I
same
don't know.
thing.
Can you guys hear me or
go
not?
for it.
Yeah, you're 5 minutes late, but we're good.
Okay, no, I'm sorry. I know my timing's off. I guess I thought the speed of the web service here was. This is like putting more refs on the field in a football game. It is so nice to have all those eyes looking. It's extra eyes. It's a good thing. But at the end of the day, you got to have the replay booth. You've got to have a solid clinician that can always be tasked with making sure that initial call on the field was right. And AI just catches more things by having more refs on the field, but we've got to have that replay booth, and that can never be eliminated. And that's what we just need to kind of keep fighting for, is to make sure that we have these things put in place where there can never be a judgment made only by AI, that, there has to be some kind of a review, particularly if it results in a denial.
All right, you ready for the next news topic? The next news topic.
And I should just stop talking now.
No, you're good.
Yes.
Jeff, we heard everything you said. Thank you so much. The next news topic is the House Committee on Energy and Commerce is now looking at research to consider whether or not to consolidate dental and vision insurance carriers. So they're looking for redundancies within the two different marketplaces to see if they can just take it into one, where insured would have a singular card that would give them vision and dental benefit. Care to comment?
I think there's some companies that are already doing that, I believe.
Okay.
And I know that dental is a quote unquote auxiliary benefit. It's not near what medical is. And I'm not a fan of that because, just full disclosure, my practice is fee for service. Yes, we do file insurance for people, but I think vision insurance, and I've got it, I think vision insurance is shit. Sorry, folks. It's like the biggest show on the planet, because it's like, okay, you're going to get your exam paid for, but we're not going to pay for the glaucoma test, and we're not going to pay for the other retinal mapping test, but we're going to pay for everything else, and we're going to give you $150 per year, but if you use it on March 31st, then you can't use it until April 1st the next year. And it's towards contacts or towards glasses. And, yes, it's nice to have $150, but if you add it all up, you freaking paid that $150 in premium. You might as well just drop it, pay everything else, and call it a day. I am not a fan of vision insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Dental is better than that, but I have a feeling that dental is going to that. That's my fear, because especially with these, and if you guys are in Cancun, you're going to hear the actual statistics with the pay ratio for dental and whatnot. It's sad what these companies actually pay out versus what they take in. It's sad. They bank on the person that never goes to the dentist
That's
or
right.
the eye doctor.
I'm behind again a little bit. That's right.
Yeah, he agrees.
I agree, Jeff.
I think it's also interesting if
I concur.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that one
Dr.
goes.
Duplantis, do you concur?
Yeah. Another interesting topic is
I'm chiming in.
probably-
Yes, I see how long the delay is now.
Yeah, it's like an hour and 20 minutes.
No, darn it. It is like an hour. It is like as long as the flight down here.
Right.
So,
as long as it
but-
took you to get your
but
luggage.
now I'm going to go. Making it worse, and I know I've talked about this before, Medicare Advantage plans are the crappiest thing that have ever happened. The Medicare system was screwed up enough as it was. It was already confusing enough as it was, having 4 distinct regions. And then the way that the Medigap insurances work with Medicare, that was hard enough to negotiate. Now, these Advantage plans are selling all of these people on the fact that, oh, you're going to get dental and you're going to get vision and you're going to get all these benefits for routine care. But at the end of the day, if they get sick, they end up getting bills. If they get really sick, they end up getting way more bills than they would had they just been on traditional Medicare. And having a sleep and TMJ practice, 95% of that practice is elderly retirees, and I hear it every single day. Advantage plans are great if you don't plan on getting sick, right? Because they give you some extra benefits with all these things you're not used to getting money for. But insurance was put there for a reason. It is to prevent or to help in the event of a catastrophic event, not to pay for everyday visits. So that's my take on Medicare and Medicare Advantage. But I think we see that in a lot of other areas and other insurances as well outside of the Advantage programs.
Insurance was put there for a reason. You are correct. And that is to make money for one person. The insurance company. Or one entity.
But let's not forget that many of our 401ks and retirement portfolios are also propped up on many of these insurance companies that provide you benefit.
Yeah,
so,
because
we can always
profitable.
talk super evil and awful about it, and yet many of us are banking on the fact that they need to be profitable in order
they're
for us
profitable.
to retire. Yeah,
Absolutely.
So, the irony.
I know. We seem to forget that little piece of the puzzle when we yell at all these capitalistic companies, and yet many of us would be bankrupt if they all really suck and start being very altruistic with their benefits.
Yeah, we could go so deep into this.
I know.
Well, I'm actually going to talk about this in Cancun. So the lecture I'm doing in Cancun is this is the healthcare advocate, and how dentists need to be thinking like physicians, although not necessarily working on the same business model. And the biggest issue in containing costs right now are like nonprofit organizations where you have CEOs not in nonprofit hospitals making $4 to $6 million per year. So I mean, we could dissect the medical system and all the shortcomings for days and days, but I mean, I really think there is a lot of disparity, and I'm all for. Trust me, I am the capitalist of capitalists. I believe hard work should be rewarded, and I'm not saying any playing field should be leveled, but truly, when you have nurses that have not gotten raises in years and years, and there's this shortage of nurses, and then you have just this top echelon in these nonprofit organizations making millions of dollars a year, and honestly they're on the golf course most of the time. I mean,
is there something wrong with that?
No.
Okay, just making sure.
I played golf with one of them. I mean, Conway Medical Center, he's not there anymore, so I knew all these people, and it's just kind of crazy, the disparity between the people, and even what they're asking the physicians to take now that have come to work under the guise of the hospital now, and underneath the hospital system, what they're asked to work, the number of hours they're asked to do for emergency care, the having to actually expand the services that they provide, the hours that they provide them. It's just not going in a good direction.
All right, I'm going to bring up one last thing, and then we'll probably wrap it up for tonight. It was a really interesting, there's a bill coming out in Illinois, and I thought you guys might find this super interesting because I'm actually kind of hoping it doesn't catch on. So House Bill 489 in the Illinois House of Representatives, this would require dental office employees to provide patients with a written treatment plan and a good faith estimate of charges before offering or arranging open-ended credit, a line of credit, or a third-party loan. And it goes on to say a bunch of other stipulations, but the one that probably sticks out the most to many of us, among other stipulations, the bill would also prohibit dental offices from charging open-end credit, a line of credit, or a third-party loan for services not yet rendered.
Yeah, but they'll have 20 more title loan places open up
right
around the building where that legislature was passed.
Exactly. But I mean, think about this. I mean, I don't know how your business is run, but if I'm doing a really big treatment plan, like a full mouth rehabilitation, we're going to do a fixed hybrid, we're going to do an overdenture with locators, we're coordinating with the surgeon, we're doing all this. I mean, it's all well and good to say that I should only be paid the day I deliver. And yet I will have paid $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 worth of time, materials, treatment planning, intellectual property to ensure that the day of surgery, there's 2 temporaries ready. All the parts and pieces for the implant surgery are there. The surgical guides are in place. We've built all of this stuff. And yet the patient hasn't had any financial skin in the game to ensure that, we're both moving towards a mutual goal. And my biggest concern is what I have found, at least in my practice, and we've all kind of mentioned the things we're going to talk about in Cancun. This is definitely one of the things I talk about, is that the prepayment idea, the idea that patients give you compensation in order to secure your time, means that there is not only a protection of your time so that hopefully they don't not show, but it's also a big material piece of informed consent to say, in order to do this procedure, you are going to have to exchange financial compensation for the good or service that we're going to provide. It's not just that I'm going to physically do the procedure, but you're also going to have a financial liability for it. Can you imagine showing up at a fixed hybrid appointment where you're now $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 in the hole on getting all these things orchestrated? The patient hasn't been forced to look at any third-party financing to figure out how the hell they're going to pay for it.
And they say, I can't do it.
And then they say, I can't do it. Or worse, you put it in their mouth and then they say, I can't do it. Because technically, it's not delivered until it's screwed into their face. So then
Yeah.
you get it into their face and they're like, oh yeah, I can't afford to do this. And they don't get approved by Cherry or Care Credit or whoever is going to offer the third party financing, and loaning on their 401k doesn't go through. And you had no financial obligation to do that prior, or no, you legally couldn't even have the conversation. I just think, what a racket. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole idea of seat date in general is kind of annoying to me. I understand it from the insurer's perspective, but I also understand it from mine, that I've got all the money tied up until the moment that I put it into their mouth. And then I have to wait another 30, 60 days to actually be compensated for the thing that I just did that I'm already 30 days in the rear on. Fine. But then you start getting these big treatment plans. This is a big deal.
Yeah.
That's a soapbox.
The way that we're going to have to, work around some of those things, because I'm right with you. I cannot stand, and Medicare is one of them. Like, if you do anything with sleep apnea, you cannot bill it out until the day the patient actually leaves it and has, the proof of delivery and all of this. And we've been burned, a couple of times with appliances that were made and then patient just doesn't follow through, and then too bad, and you've got $600 out in, $600 just in appliance and materials. Forget about your time that you've already spent with the patient. So, but I think we move more towards the model as physicians do, and we're going to have to develop codes for preparation. Mm-hmm. There's a preparation code, and sorry, insurance company, you're the beneficiary. They came in and they had this work done. If they didn't follow through, well, great, we won't charge for the whole thing, but you're going to pay for the time that we took to do this and the materials that we used to get them this far. Physicians have operated this way for a long time, and on that part, I think they're smart in that they never do a damn thing that doesn't get put on, on the billing sheet and get billed that day.
They're also not, as best I can tell, held to frequencies. Like if they did a surgery tomorrow on a heart, let's just say, and it blows out the next day, like it sucks, and they go and open it back up again. And I'm not blaming the surgeon. I'm not saying that the surgeon did anything wrong.
I've heard
literally
of this,
saying it's biology,
syndrome.
Right? And you go and you attempt to do a complicated procedure and it falls apart the next day. And they say, we got to open the patient back up again and back into the OR. They're not going to get kicked back with I'm sorry, you were in the OR less than 24 hours ago. Yeah. Now we only pay for OR visits once every 2 years. Like, you don't see that. They just, anyway. So, we do deal with some very unique challenges within the dental space, and insurance is certainly one of them. But I definitely do not like legislation that starts to impact how we can legally and fairly develop financial arrangements with a patient prior to investing intellectual property, materials, and time without a full understanding of the financial obligation and some skin in the game. And to me, that is part of informed consent, that we're all agreeing that this is a compensated procedure. Yes, we're doing it to your physical body, but there also is a financial exchange for it. And this is what it will look like. And once that happens, then it's very difficult for the patient to come back and say, I didn't understand it was going to cost this much. I didn't understand. And then ultimately you get stuck with the bill. So not a huge fan of what I'm seeing coming out of Illinois.
I don't like that at all. But I mean, that how often have you made that statement?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Hey guys, Florida might be the next to join the DHAC club. And I know a bunch of Florida dentists, and I bet they're not super pumped about that, but they now have legislation in place for dental health aid therapists coming to you. And Wisconsin just passed theirs. So I believe they're the 10th state now offering a DHAC licensure status. Still, there's only 4 or 5 programs in the country that you can actually do the program through. So while, these legislative efforts are putting them in place, there's actually no real well-defined process for getting them educated to be able to be competent for licensure. But sounds like the horse may be out of the gate.
Yeah, well,
And with
I've
that-
spoken my
That's the news.